Hang on.
Right. Welcome to Rock Show Critique. And our special guest today is Mr. Doogie White. Hello, sir.
Lovely to see you on
Good to
such a hot day in Scotland. It's very unusual for us to have weather like this, and it's been boiling for the last 4 days. So if my nose looks a wee bit burnt, you know.
Yeah, it seems like the weather, no matter where you are these days, a lot of strange things with weather lately, no matter where you are.
Do you think that would be anything to do with global warming, or just a yeah? Anyway, we're not here to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what have you been up to lately? What's going on in your world here?
Well, I think like most of the musicians I know, my friends and people who I don't like, I think we're all finding ourselves in the same situation where there's no live work at all. I haven't done a concert since I did 6 last year, and normally I do 6 a week.
Wow.
3 on, 1 off, 3 on, and I did 6 gigs last year. I think we're all, it's interesting that the virus has really killed everything off over here. Now, I'm not a scientist at all, but it's interesting. What's interesting is that people who don't believe the virus is real don't believe that global warming is real either. But anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about music.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting thing, don't you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. Gives us more stuff to debate about, more things for people to get mad at each other about or disagree about.
People like to get mad at each other, and that's been happening over here as well. It's a 58-40, 52-48% thing. But anyway, where are we going? We're going to go and talk about music.
Exactly.
Which brings us all together. But then we'll probably find out about question 5 that it doesn't.
Yeah. All right, you got a couple albums here I was sent here. Tell us about these new albums that are coming out here.
Which one would you like to start with?
We'll start with the solo album.
The solo album, okay, as yet untitled. It's a re-release of an album that I did after I left Yngwie Malmsteen. Yngwie and I had a great run together for nearly 7 years, and I had nothing to do. And when I've nothing to do, then I've become very tetchy and annoyed about anything. It doesn't matter, I just get annoyed. And so Derek Sherinian, who was in Yngwie's band a couple of times when I was there, said, "Oh, stop moaning about having songs. Just go and record a solo album." So that's what I did. And Derek played on it, and Tony Carey played on it. Neil Murray from Whitesnake and Sabbath played on it. Patti Russo, who was Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light Girl for 15 years, she sang on it. I had a whole bunch of different friends that I just called in and said, "Listen, can you help me out?" And they went, everyone did, and it was great. And it's a great record. But I got the rights to it back last year sometime, or the year before, and the record, and so I pitched it to another record company, and they said, "Okay, do you have any bonus tracks?" And I had 2 that I had left over, Dish in the Dirt and Small Town Saturday Night. And so we put them on. And then it turned out that the guy who's in charge of the record company owned all these tribute albums, myself and a whole load of UK British musicians did back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Ranging from guys from Mickey Moody, who was in Whitesnake, Bernie Marsden, Bernie Tormey, Bernie Shaw, anyone called Bernie was included, and so he just picked 10 or 11 songs and said, "Right, okay, we'll make that a bonus CD." And it's actually turned out quite well. I'm quite pleased. I mean, there was a few of those songs I'd never heard before. I mean, obviously I sang them, but I've got no memory of doing them.
Wow. Awesome. Well, yeah, those are, so how are they out now, or will they be coming out?
No. The album as yet untitled should be out now.
Okay.
But as a bonus CD, they added that in just to make it more fun, and it is fun. We just sort of kicked around with it, and you know, we have Iron Maiden songs and UFO songs, Thin Lizzy songs, Nazareth. Dear Lord, Rolling Stones. I mean, really? You know, I don't remember doing. I'm too young to remember the Rolling Stones.
Now they're still around.
Yeah, I'm still too young to remember the Rolling Stones.
All right. Well, do you have any other projects in the works right now, or anything else coming up anytime soon?
Well, I was supposed to be on tour with Michael Schenker from March last year till October last year. We were starting in Japan. We were going to end up in South America. But of course, the virus that's affected you, me, and everybody else kicked in and scuppered all those plans. So I moved house, right? And I got a front and a back garden so that I had something to do. And then I got contacted by Frontiers Records. Now, I don't know if you know Frontiers Records. They're an Italian-based record company, and they have lots and lots. They've got a huge rota of people. And we kind of danced around each other for a while. But they were never happy with my suggestions, and I was never happy with theirs. And then eventually we just sort of went, right, okay. And they put me in touch with a guy called Emil Norberg. He's a Swedish guy, a Swedish guitar player and writer. And he was great. And we wrote an album together last autumn, or fall, as you would maybe say. And the project is called Long Shadows Dawn. And that plays into my, I had a dream, a bit like Steve Harris with one of his songs, but I had a dream of an audience of 10 or 20,000 people before we came on the stage shouting, LSD, LSD, right? And I thought that would be great. So it was called Long Shadows Dawn. The album is called Isle of Wrath, because as you were just pointing out in the preamble before we actually got into doing the interview, you know, how much people are very upset and angry and frustrated now. And it's the same over here in the UK. 52-48.
Okay. Well, that pretty much fills us up where we're at right now. Let's see if you could take us back to the beginning. How did you become a singer? Like, how did you get into the business and everything here?
Well, I was a rubbish drummer. I was a terrible drummer. And I wanted to be a guitar player, but if you want to be a guitar player or a keyboard player or do anything, it takes hours and hours and years of manipulation and working and concentration. I was too busy trying to be either Evel Knievel or Bruce Lee. You know, I was either climbing trees and jumping out of them to see what would happen, or jumping over barrels on bicycles, or playing soccer, football, but soccer. And I never had the time or the discipline to sit down and play. But I had friends who did, and they asked me to join their band because we used to go to church, and they heard me singing in church and thought that maybe I could join the rock and roll band, and so I did, and that was the first time. I can't tell you the name because you get barred from every social media thing if I told you what the band was called, right?
Gotcha.
But we were only 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. And, but it was the first time that I found that the guitar player, he decided his girlfriend would be the manager of the band. You know, and this is way before Spinal Tap. This is way before any of that. You know, and so I think about 3 hours later I quit. You know, but it's been a thing of my life all the time. You know.
All right. And how did you get to audition for Iron Maiden? How did that all come about?
I was recording an album in Brussels, in Belgium, and we were working quite hard on it. And a friend of mine, it was that you have to remember, this is before the days of emails or mobile phones. This was probably 93, something like that. And there was only one phone in the studio, and they said, you've got a telephone call. And it was a mate of mine saying that Bruce had left Iron Maiden, and, you know, if I get a chance, I should send a tape in. So that's all I did. I would imagine, you know, 1,000 other guys, but they seemed to like what I did. And I was going to go to Scotland. I was living in London at the time. And Dickie Bell, who was the production manager, turned up at my door and said, where are you going? I had my suitcase. I thought he was here. I thought it was a taxi driver to take me to the train station. Well, and it was Dickie Bell. And Dickie said, where do you think you're going, young Scotsman? I said, well, I'm going to Scotland. He went, nah. On Monday, you're auditioning for Iron Maiden. So that wasn't a Friday night. So I had 72 hours of just trying to learn. He gave me a cassette and a list of songs and lyrics, and I had to learn, you know, 20 songs in about 72 hours, and then turn up and sing in the greatest metal band of all time, you know. But seemingly I did well enough, and they invited me back for another go. And but of course they gave it to Blaze, and Blaze did a great job with them. And in 1999, you know, normal service was resumed. You know, that it wouldn't have made a difference. Whoever got the job, it wouldn't have made any difference at all. Adrian and Bruce coming back to Maiden, you know, they've gone on to bigger and better things than they even were back then, and they were the biggest metal band in the world then. Mm-hmm. So they must be the biggest metal band in the universe now.
Yeah, they're up, definitely there. Yeah.
No, who? All right. Who do you think has achieved more?
Well, I would say, you know, even though I like Maiden better, I would say Metallica's definitely up there.
Oh, okay.
You know, although I like Iron Maiden better.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay, that's all right. Just checking. That's the name that always pops up.
And I believe that Maiden is more, they're so big in other countries. You know, Metallica would give them a run for their money in America, but you go to those other countries, you know, and Maiden.
And that's why I said Iron Maiden was the biggest heavy metal band in the universe.
Yeah. Yep. I guess the argument is stopped right there.
There you go. Okay. Are we on to question 5 yet?
5. No. All right. Well, here's a good question for you. You know, obviously you've worked with some of the biggest names in the music business, toured the world.
Yeah.
Made some great albums. And so with all that being said, what would you consider 1 or 2 of your favorite moments looking back so far?
Well, I think the important moment was Richie asking me to be in Rainbow. That changed the world for me. That gave me a platform, and that's what he's always done. I mean, he took David Coverdale from a clothes shop in Redcar in the northeast of England, and gave him a career. And it's so what he does is he gives you a launch pad to work from. And some people make it, and some people still make it. I mean, you know, the guys that were in the band with me, Chuck Burgey's been working with Billy Joel, you know, for the last 20 years. Greg Smith, who was the bass player in the band, he's been working with Alice Cooper and Ted Nugent for the last 20 years. You know, for the last 20 odd years, I've worked with Yngwie Malmsteen and Michael Schenker and Tank, and, you know, so he took a chance on a wee Scottish lad, and I'll always be grateful to him for that, because he didn't have to, you know, but he did, and we got on really well, and we enjoyed it. We made a pretty decent album. The concerts were brilliant. You know, a lot of the concerts were really, really, really good. The album could have been better, but we compromised because we had to have songs that girls would like. But I'm no Joe Lynn Turner. That's not what I do. You know, Joe's brilliant at what he does. And so it was a good album. It wasn't, there were some songs on there that shouldn't have been there. And I won't mention them, but we could have done a better album. It was a good album. It wasn't a great album.
Well, speaking of Rainbow, like, so when you guys went out and did some shows, you know, with the vast array of songs on there that you could have chosen to play, how did you kind of go about making a set list?
Richie told us what we were going to play. You know, what was interesting was that he did not want to play any Mark II Deep Purple songs, but then he would throw them in, you know. He would throw in Black Knight, he would throw in Smoke in the Water. We played some Mark III Purple songs, Mistreated, Burn. We did some of the, you know, the Man in the Silver Mountains, that and 16th Century Greensleeves and a few other things. But the idea was, what we were trying to do was we were trying to build something. So we played 7 songs or 6 songs from the new album that people had never heard. But because he's so brilliant at what he does, and people follow him so much, it didn't matter, because the songs were of the ilk that the fans who were coming to the shows wanted to see. And that was kind of my remit. That was kind of my imagining when I was writing the album with Richie, was like, what would I, as a fan, and trust me, I was, from 1975, what would I want to see? How would I want it to be presented? And that's just what we did, you know. And we tried. I tried to get him to do Stargazer, Kill the King, Catch the Rainbow, you know, but he just wasn't interested in doing that. I mean, he wanted it to be just a rock and roll show without all the he wanted to play songs rather than to show off. You know, if you know, a Rainbow tour or concert back in the 70s was 8 songs long. Yeah. You know, we were doing 15, 16 songs every night.
Yeah, I seen you guys were doing stuff like Perfect Strangers, and then I did see you did see, like, from what I seen that you did Street of Dreams, Stone Cold, 2 of the Joe Lynn Turner songs, but not that often though.
That was it. That was in Japan, right? Mm-hmm. So we went to Japan, and Richie sent his assistant round and said, we'll be doing Street of Dreams and Stone Cold tonight. Here's the CD, learn them. Oh. and that's kind of what happened. So you know, we played them, but we'd never rehearsed them. I mean, we just, you know, the band was so good that he knew that he could just turn up at sound check. We would run the song once, and then he knew that it was going to be in the bag. I mean, that's all we did. We never went anywhere. We just we ran through them once at rehearsals to get the beginning and the ending of both those songs. and sang them, you know, and played them. That's all we did. Only in Japan, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. That's probably why they didn't show up too many times on the set list, only in Japan. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So now, out of all the shows that you've played over the years here, do you have one or two concerts that stand out for one reason or another?
Yes, I do. 4th of August, 1989. It was the Queen Mother's 90th birthday over here. And I was playing with a band called Midnight Blue at the Marquee. And it was just about the best gig I ever played. It was a great evening. And it had actually been 10 years to the day since I saw Led Zeppelin at Nebworth. And there was just an atmosphere, there was an electricity in the air. And it was only a club. It maybe held 750 people, but the place was jumping, man. And that's the one that I remember out of all the shows. That's the one that I remember the most, with the most affection, was that Midnight Blue show in the Marquee in London.
Now, what was probably the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of, would you say?
It would probably be Grass Pop in Belgium. It was Iron Maiden, Dio, Yngwie Malmsteen. So I was with Yngwie at the time. And we had a 1 hour spot. We played, I think, 7 songs. Most of them were just one verse and then a guitar solo, and then second song and a guitar solo, and third song and a guitar solo. And I actually went back to the bus and changed 3 times just to see if anyone would notice. You know, just put on, I'll wear this cape thing, you know, and nobody noticed, you know, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. But I remember the gig very well because we were touring, Yngwie and I were touring around Europe at the time. And we turned up at Grasspop. We turned up really early in the morning, and we'd done about 5 shows back to back. And this was the first, we'd been on the bus the whole time. And so we turned up, and I went, and they had shower rooms, so you could go and have a shower, which was great. And they had a toilet where you could go and have a crap in. And I remember coming back, and Yngwie said, "Oh, will you take me there? Will you show me how to get there?" And of course, so I went round, and the guy wouldn't let Yngwie in, right? And he said, "Where's your pass?" And he went, "I am Yngwie Malmsteen. Who the fuck are you?" And the guy went, "I'm the guy who's not letting you in unless you show me your pass." So we had to go all the way back to the bus and get the pass. You know, it was hilarious. It was funny time. It was funny times. Great times with Yngwie.
Now, when you sang with Yngwie, how far back in the catalog did you usually go for songs that you had to learn for singing?
Man, I've got no idea. I mean, I never listened to Yngwie until I joined him. So I just learned the songs that he told me to learn. I've got no idea. You know, here are the songs you have to learn. I don't know who the singers were. I don't know who was in the band. I don't know what album before. Never paid any attention to that at all. You know, I just went in and learned the songs and sang them.
And did them, yeah. Yeah, not too many people can actually do that. So that's a little.
Well, I would disagree with you. I mean, there's been a lot of people done it over the years. You know, I mean, I think probably Ripper was the last one. And then me, Mark Bowles, Joran Land, Mark Bowles, you know, going back to Mark Bowles at the beginning.
Well,
on the
yeah.
Trilogy album.
Yeah, he was.
Mark Bowles seems to have done a lot of this.
Well, I mean, gotta admit, most of those songs he plays, some of them are from his first time he sang with Yngwie, Mark Bowles. So he knows the catalog probably better than anybody, just because he's been there so many times.
But he's brilliant. He's brilliant. You know, I've got a lot of time for Mark. Him and I are good old friends. And I remember being in he lives in Las Vegas now. And he came and picked me up and took me for the second best sushi I ever had in America.
So how often do you make it over here to America
Well,
these
I did.
days? Yeah.
Well, I don't come and visit. I don't come and visit. My father-in-law was in Philadelphia. He was a professor of medicine at the Hammerman University Hospital in Philadelphia, but he's dead now. So I don't come over to visit. I come over to work, and so I did 5 tours with Michael Schenker. I did 3 tours with Yngwie Malmsteen, and I did 1 tour with Richie Blackmore. So yeah, but it's you know, and but I like it. I mean, it's a fun place to go just because everywhere is different. You know, if you're on the East Coast and you drive over to the West Coast or down through Texas, it's just mental. You know, all these different places that you go through, and these little towns that you pass through if you're going through Texas, they've always got an exhaust store and a battery place. And then over here will be a tire place. And it's, you know, I love it. I think it's great fun.
So what do you see, like when you came over here to see our type of crowds as opposed to like English crowds, Swedish crowds? Like, what's the biggest difference you usually notice?
The Americans are normally, it depends, right? And it's a very important point. When I came over and I played with Yngwie, we used to go on at 11 o'clock at night, but they opened the doors at 6 o'clock, and there were 7 bands, including, you know, some guys from the high school and some guys from this. So by the time we got on the stage, everybody was completely pissed anyway, you know. And it was the same with Richie, actually. With Michael, it was a wee bit different because we were playing theatres, and so they were sit-down venues, which was interesting. But every country has a different way of dealing with it. I love playing in Japan a great deal because I can cross the road with safety because they drive in the same side of the road as us. But as I was saying earlier, you know, if you play in New York or you play in LA or you play in Texas, it's 3 different crowds. It's not an American audience. It's a New York crowd, an LA crowd, and a Texas crowd. Because although it's one big nation, it's not the same. You know, and if you travel across it, it's a fantastic place to visit, and it's a fantastic place to play in. I played in Birmingham somewhere. Would it be Birmingham, Alabama?
Alabama, yeah.
I played there. That was kind of weird. They wouldn't let us take. Well, they wouldn't let us take. You were not allowed to take alcohol onto the stage, right? Right, but
Okay.
even if you took some water, there was 2 policemen that sat and they had to sniff it and taste it to see.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Oh, I know, and it's like, well, really, Jose, am I going to drink that now? You've had your nose in it, you know. It's funny, but I like it. I like it. I like the food. I like the people. You know, it's good fun.
All right. Well, the last question I have here,
Question 5 now.
5, yes, 5. This
Right,
is it.
come on then, give it to me.
So at this point, what is next for you? And do you still have any goals in the music business here?
I'd like to get back out and play on the road again. This is tedious, and I suppose, you know, if you speak to any musician just now at this time, I think you'll find that they all feel it. We're all feeling it, and I know that as an audience member, you know, I just bought tickets for James Taylor for January. I've got tickets for Larkin Poe that were supposed to be used last year. And I think we all just want to go to concerts, whether it's to see the concerts or whether it is to play the concerts. And I just hope that the people that we voted to govern for us make the correct decisions to allow us to do this. You know, the music industry over here in the United Kingdom, and I imagine it's the same in America, with the exception of some states, it has been absolutely decimated. You know, from going from venue owners to promoters to crew guys to lighting guys to bus drivers, van drivers, backline guys, to musicians. We're all just in the same boat here. We all want it to come back. We all want it to come back safely, and we all want to get out there, see live shows and play live shows. And that's all I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine. You know, you've done it your whole career here, and then all of a sudden they just everything gets put on hold. It must be really tough.
It's tough. It's tough, but I'm healthy. I'm not going to lose my home. And so that's, you know, that's a positive for me. And and like a number of my friends will weather the storm. Some people won't be able to do that. And but I'll, you know, I've never had expensive tastes. Look at me. You know, I don't need a Rolex or an Aston Martin. That's never been my bag. And but I'm happy to be healthy. I need to work more on getting my voice up to scratch again, because all I've done is be in the studio for the last 8 months, and it's not the same as going out there and performing live. You know, so I just hope that that it'll come back and that everybody is aware of what it needs to bring it back.
Yeah,
And we all need to be safe.
exactly. Exactly. All right. Was there any last thing you wanted to mention that we didn't get a chance to talk about before I let you go?
There was always one question that bothered me. And it was, why do bald men have ponytails?
What's the answer?
I don't know. That was a question. You know, when someone said, can I ask you a question? I go, is it, why do bald men have ponytails? Never figured that one out. You know, never figured that one out. But it doesn't matter. I'm sure there's an answer out there somewhere. But it's probably best we never know.
Exactly. All right. Well, I appreciate your time